Thanks everyone for joining in to your Transmute Yourself weekly live show, where we talk about topics related to fear of commitment so that you can create your own fulfilling relationships. This is Javier Peñalba, your host, and today we'll be talking about the relationship between fear of rejection and fear of commitment. Now, when we think usually about fear of commitment, the last thought that people tend to get is the thought of fear of rejection. Usually, they do not think of fear of commitment phobes, people with fear of commitment, as people that lack confidence, that are insecure, let's say, or especially that they have a fear of abandonment or a fear of rejection. And this is because that's usually the opposite of the image that's portrayed by them. What do I mean by that? Usually, what's portrayed is people that are independent, right? Very autonomous, that don't need connection or don't need that many connections, that many friendships, that are okay on their own, right? And don't need this bonding, this social relationship that we people tend to have, right? And many people tend to enjoy. Well, they seem strong, they seem confident, they seem that they just don't need that. So the last thing again that we think is they have or there is a relationship with fear of rejection. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about today. Before we get deeper into the topic, I want to just give you a little bit of my own example. Maybe some of you can resonate with that, and that can help us to illustrate what I mean by this fear of rejection and its relationship, right, with fear of commitment. So let me go back to my example. I remember when I used to go to clubs and bars, it used to happen that I would get introduced to girls by friends, or maybe just in the circle of people where I was sitting, I would just start speaking to someone. So I would start that conversation trying to show myself as a very confident person, just doing my best and having a conversation, having a good time. But I once things started getting a little bit more interesting, I remember having this urge, this impulse to walk away, to look elsewhere, and to not to look that available. I wanted to look more unavailable so that that was the story that I was telling myself. If I looked unavailable, I would look more interesting and more attractive to that person that I'm speaking to, and also I just don't want to look that easy. So what I would do is I would as soon as I found an opportunity, maybe just go talk to my friends or talk to other people. And most of the time I would never come back there. Then this other person, the girl that I was talking to, usually she would think, oh, okay, he's not that interested, or he just doesn't need to talk to me. He's very confident, he's very independent, and that's the image that I wanted to portray. But the lie or the story that I was telling myself was simply I just want to be unavailable. Once I started digging deeper within myself and trying to understand, like, why am I doing this, the what came up is that as soon as there was a connection, I just had this certainty, very like 100% certainty that I would be rejected afterwards. And I wanted to prevent that. So in order to lie to myself, I would say the story, I'm gonna be unavailable and just walk away. So I hope that you can start seeing that connection between fear of rejection and fear of commitment. That would happen um, again before a relationship, right? But then after, let's say that I would cross that stage of dating and then I would start a relationship. I remember that the next stage would be that whenever I heard phrases or words from my partner, such as "I'm dying for you" or "I'm so in love with you" or "I really see a future between us," that the alarm would just set off and I would start freaking out. And I wouldn't really understand why, but I remember that it felt like confidence, like a little bit like arrogance, if I'm honest. And the thought that I would get is she's just taking it too far or too quickly, or maybe I took it too far. And my next step would be to maybe just look away or walk away. Now, here, like, where is the fear of rejection, right? There's no obvious connection there. And it took me a while to really figure out what was going on with me back then regarding this feeling that I was getting. So, what I figured out was that behind this, uh, let's call it this security or this sort of arrogance of, oh, she's just being too easy, or this type of thoughts, was actually a little bit of a fear of disappointing the partner once she had very big expectations of me that I knew, because of my low self esteem and low self worth, I knew that I just wasn't going to be able to fulfill those expectations. And of course, if I'm not able to fulfill that, I'm going to disappoint her. And in return, she's going to reject me. So that's that part of the fear of rejection that's very, very hidden deep within, that I couldn't figure out until later on. And again, it feels like a shell, it feels like a protection where you just feel you don't need her, you don't even love her anymore. But simply, it's like you close down so much and so quickly as a way to protect that fear of rejection. Again, this is very subtle. You have to really, really have a lot of introspection to look within yourself and see if some of that is within you. This has at least been my case. I know of other people that have gone through things like that. So you can just this, let's say, is food for thought, so that you can think of your own case and see if there's anything like that hidden beneath. So let's go back. Let's get away a little bit from my example, and let's move into the fear of rejection itself. There are two main ways to show, or let's instead say to suppress, fear of rejection. One is the perfectionist way, which is just doing everything perfect, doing it as best as possible so that you avoid any criticism. Usually it's the preoccupied or anxious attachment style that's showing off here, where these people, again, they just tend to do everything perfectly, and that way they can avoid rejection. On the other hand, there's the commitment phobe style, which is before making that connection, before just approaching too much something and making an emotional attachment with something, be it a person, be it a project, they simply cut off before getting there. And that way they can protect their own themselves, right? And their egos. And this is that second way. So you can think of it as, if you don't approach too much, if you don't connect that much, of course, the chances of being rejected and of suffering just go down to zero, and it gives you back that power over what you feel and over the rejection. Again, this can also be applied to projects and to work. Let's say if you don't commit or engage that much in a project, then of course you are not gonna take it personally at all, and you will be freer, let's say, to walk away more easily as you have less expectations. So you're always in that gray zone, and as soon as things are getting too close, it might be time to walk away before that rejection or that disappointment can take place. So something else that happens here is that, as I was mentioning before, this can be very subtle. Superficially, it's very hard to tell. Again, it feels there are various layers, I would say. One of those layers can be a little bit of arrogance or false confidence. Beneath that, there can be some other feelings, or before that, there can be also this fear of missing out, and many thoughts of why this person is not the right one, for example. Beneath that, there can be other things like guilt or fear of disappointing the partner. And beneath that, there can be this fear of rejection. So if you can go through those layers and really find that root, then you're one step closer to healing your own fear of commitment. So I really, really recommend to ask yourself how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, and trying to go deeper within yourself. One last thing that I want to talk about here is this dichotomy that tends to happen with fear of commitment. This dichotomy is it's a little bit what creates the hide and seek behavior. This dichotomy is you want a relationship, but you want independence. You want connection, but you want to be free. So maybe some of you who have fear of commitment, you can relate to those times when you are single and you just crave a relationship. You just crave this bonding and these emotions that come when you're with someone. But then once you are with someone, you crave again being single. This dichotomy, which is a combination that really doesn't match, which is being independent, fully independent, and being in a relationship, is really caused in a way by this fear of rejection. So again, just look within yourself and check if you can sense some of it. Now, what can you do in order to overcome or improve your fear of rejection? Tune in to my next event where I will talk more about that. This you can call it like a continuation of this event. So we'll get deeper into strategies and things that you can do in order to start overcoming that fear of rejection, and at the same time take a step closer to heal your own fear of commitment. The next event will not take place next week as I will be on vacations, but in 2 weeks I'll let you know exactly when. So tune in. And if you have liked this video, I want to invite you to hit like, to subscribe to my channel, and to share with anyone that might benefit from it. You can leave your comments, your impressions in the comments. And I just want to thank you for being here and for watching my video. Thanks a lot, and see you very soon.